A very good morning to all dear children. Let us start with the second session of lesson number 6, Effects of the British Rule in India. Before we start, let us recall what we have learnt in the previous session. Children, we have learnt about the prosperity of our country and how it went on deteriorating with the drain of wealth to England after the Britishers' rule, which lasted for nearly 200 years. We learnt about the situation of peasants and how they became landless labourers due to the revenue collection rights given in the hands of zamindars who were loyal to the Britishers. We also learnt about the policies introduced by the Britishers and its impact on the poor peasants. Last but not the least, we learnt about how the backbone of the country was broken by destroying the ancient system of Gram Panchayats. In the name of social reforms, how people were forced to adopt Christianity and salute Britishers, failing which they were punished. Let's start with today's session. Destruction of Indian trade and industries. The handlooms of India supplied textile to the markets of Asia and Europe. The traders from the European countries used to come to India to purchase commodities. The Indian-made jute, silk, woolen and cotton textiles were in high demand in the European markets. The soft and delicate muslin of Dhaka was world famous. Apart from textiles, commodities such as salt, saltpeter, sugar, etc. were exported in exchange of tremendous amount of bullion, that is gold and silver. As far as the commodities produced in our country are concerned, we were rich in not only wealth but also raw materials supplied in the form of jute, silk, woolen and cotton textiles. Secondly, the spices and other commodities like salt, saltpeter, sugar, etc. were also exported to Asian and European countries in exchange of gold and silver. The whole scenario changed as the British rule was implemented. The flow of bullion, that is gold and silver, got reversed. In the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, the British took 500 crore rupees as per today's standard only from Bengal during their rule. Just imagine the wealth the British would have accumulated from the whole country. With coming up of British rule, instead of exporting, we started importing their goods and purchased them in exchange of gold and silver. So, rather than earning from our own commodities, we started spending. So much of wealth was drained from our country that it is nearly unimaginable. Just from Bengal, as per today's time, it was nearly 500 crore rupees. With the help of the raw materials produced in India and the money collected from India, the business and industries in England prospered. Their mills started progressing. The cloth manufactured in England was imported in India without levying any duty on it, whereas there were taxes up to 80% on the cloth manufactured in India. As a result, textile made in India became costlier in the Indian market itself. The Indian handicraft and cottage industries could not withstand the competition and they could not sustain themselves. Many skill-based industries of our country like textile industries, glass, paper, mineral, shipbuilding, etc. got ruined due to the policies of the British. Lakhs of skilled workers became unemployed. Gradually, the poor workers of the rural areas of India became poorer. Our industries started declining and the industries of England started prospering using the material and money from India. The products reported by the British companies came without tax, whereas Indian products were levied a tax of 80%, leading to increase in the price of Indian products. Handicraft and cottage industries also suffered a lot, leading to increase in unemployment of the skilled labor. All this happened due to the exploiting policies of the British. Suspicion about the reforms. When William Pentic came to India, liberal thinking was getting its stronghold in England. This way of thinking slowly reached India. The British rulers started taking interest in the lives of people of India. Lord William Bentinck became quite popular in India by introducing few beneficial reforms. During his time, Indians started getting jobs in company administration. Indians were allowed to use their mother tongue in the court of law. Raja Ram Mohan Roy and other social reformers were constantly making efforts to stop the evil practice of sati. Bentinck agreed to these efforts and passed a law in 1829 to ban the practice of sati. So, the Britishers started taking interest in the lives of people of India. They, along with social reformers of our country, Raja Ram Mohan Roy and others, were able to ban the evil practices of sati, and a law was passed for banning this practice in 1829 by William Bentinck. During the time of William Bentinck, the English rulers tried to eradicate the social evils as per the will of the social reformers. The orthodox class witnessed these reforms with suspicion. The company had passed a resolution to spend 1 lakh rupees every year on education, but it was not implemented. Finally, an education committee was formed during the time of Bentinck. In the year 1834, Lord Macaulay thought of introducing English education in India. However, the educational method advocated by Macaulay could not benefit the youth. Indians lost the advantage of acquiring the ancient knowledge and skills developed by their ancestors. The method of British education system was opposed by a number of intellectuals, and Mahatma Gandhi called it as to give millions a knowledge of English is to enslave them. That by receiving English education we have enslaved the nation. Later, 3 universities were established in 1857. The Britishers could get educated workforce due to the introduction of English education. Alongside, it also developed nationalistic thinking among the educated Indians. So the banning of such practices started to be considered with suspicion by the orthodox class. Many policies were framed for the betterment of the people of India but were never put into practice. Committees were formed and Lord Macaulay introduced English education. The youth were not benefited by it, and they were also not able to acquire ancient knowledge and skills. Many people were against the English education system, and Mahatma Gandhi also said that by driving the youth or the young generation to English education, we were enslaving them. Still, 3 universities were established in 1857. The British were able to get educated workforce, and it was also able to develop nationalistic thinking among the educated Indians. Many machines were invented to facilitate the industries, transport and communication. Considering the convenience in running administration and strategic importance for the military, the Britishers introduced the railways in India. In order to maintain an effective control on the country and to exchange messages with the neighboring territories, modern methods of post and telegraph were introduced in India in 1854 CE. Printing press and circulation of newspapers grew alongside. So, machines were invented and introduced, railways were introduced, and even telegraph and post services were introduced for proper administration by the British government. These reforms were actually for the convenience of the British rule in India, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise for the growth of nationalism in India. The class that acquired the English education spearheaded the social reforms and nationalism in India, since they were more familiar with the contemporary developments in the world around. The post and telegraph brought people closer. So all these things introduced turned out to be a blessing for the Indians. Although it was for the convenience of Britishers, still it helped in growing of nationalism in India. People got educated and were able to understand the British language. Postal services and telegraph proved to be helpful in bringing people together. So children, with this we come to the end of this chapter. I hope you all have understood it properly. Go through the video again and again and try to understand the chapter. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.